way home after seeing Ice Cream Man. You know I had to stop and get some ice cream. Oddly, craving a little bit of ice cream now, but I'm gonna go home. Gonna have me a bowl of this delicious cookies and cream ice cream, and then we'll go talk about Ice Cream Man, the movie. All right, you can bet that I did enjoy a bowl of that cookies and cream ice cream. Hit the spot. But we're getting off topic. So I am here to talk about Ice Cream Man, the new film by Eli Roth, distributed by his new production company as well, called The Horror Section. And this film, if you haven't been familiar with it, is the new splatterfest horror film directed by Eli Roth, like I mentioned, who's real well known for the splattery genre of horror, just going balls to the wall with the practical effects, the practical gore, and all that. And this one is no different. Basically, the synopsis of this, if you're not familiar with it, is pretty simple. Just a small town during the summer or before summer vacation. And an ice cream man comes to town giving ice cream out, of course, because that's his job, driving that truck. And the kids who eat the ice cream turn into homicidal maniacs targeting their parents. And that's basically the plot of this movie. So if that interests you, you definitely get that in all its glory. That being said, we'll dive into a little bit more of the nitty gritty here. But to give you a little bit of a start with this, I'll say my little history here. So, two things. When this movie was first announced, I wasn't excited. I was just like, yeah, I'll definitely be checking that out. Especially with it being from the horror selection. The only movie I have seen from the horror selection so far is Jimmy and Stiggs. I still want to check out Dream Eater, I believe it's called, and I hear that one is pretty Lovecraftian, so maybe I'll check that out this weekend. That being said, though, the horror selection is basically this production company founded by Eli Roth, putting new directors, unheard of directors, getting their horror projects out into theaters. It's limited budget. It's DIY. I mean, look at Jimmy and Stiggs, for example. If you haven't seen it, it's basically just a DIY neon-soaked alien invasion by Mr. Bagos. So if you love alien stuff, definitely check that one out. Doesn't really have much of a story either. It's just 90 minutes of neon-soaked alien carnage. But the fact that it was all shot in Bagos' apartment adds a nice little charm to it. We're getting off topic. Yeah, I was like definitely going to go check out the horror selection. And another cool thing that they do with their theatrical releases is fake trailers. And that's always a fun time, especially with the Grindhouse movie, how we got Machete, Thanksgiving, Hobo with a Shotgun, and much more. So that being said, that was my history with this movie. I was looking forward to it. And then when it got released, when the Monday Night Mystery movie happened, all hell broke loose, and it was getting very bad write-ups. That being said, when it comes to movies, you can either overhype a film, and when you go see it, you're like, yeah, it didn't live up to that hype. That's why I kind of try to stay away from general discourse before going into the movie for that reason, and just avoid spoilers, because apparently there's no spoiler tags on anything anymore. But the opposite can happen, where a movie can be written up to be so bad where it intrigues me, where I'm like, is it as bad as it's claimed to be? Now I got to see this shit show. And usually I walk out agreeing with that said notion, or I'm just like, yeah, that wasn't that bad. Did we see the same movie? And that's kind of where I'm at with Ice Cream Man right now, and we'll get into that. But back to Eli Roth. I know this guy can be a little controversial right now. I don't stay up to date with any of his life or personal life, so I'm not really too familiar with that aspect. When it comes to the movies, when it comes to his filmography, that's what we'll be discussing today. And that being said, I do have a general blind spot when it comes to Eli Roth, believe it or not. I know what he's known for. I know his classics. I know what he like, Hostel 2, Cabin Fever. All those I haven't seen, surprisingly. The only Eli Roth movie I have seen is Thanksgiving. And that being said, I enjoy Thanksgiving. I'm not as high on it as everyone else seems to be. I think the biggest reasons were because I loved that Grindhouse fake trailer it had. And when they made this movie into an actual movie, they got rid of that Grindhouse feeling to it. They modernized it a bit. and then the trampoline kill, the infamous trampoline kill that was in that trailer. They changed it up a bit and just made it kind of a lot more of a boring fatality there. So and it just, it's good though. It's worth checking out if you're a slasher fan. I've revisited it, and it's one of those movies where I'll probably watch it like every other Thanksgiving or so. That's where I'm at with all of this. So let's dive in to this movie. So we'll kick it off with the positives, and that's going to be basically the Carnage candy. And I feel like that's what 95% of the people that go see this movie, go seek it out, are going to be looking for. And let me tell you, the Carnage candy is delivered here. It doesn't take long for it to hit. It's about 15, 20 minutes, I would say. And then we get a very good, 6, 7 minute Carnage filled scene. And then it keeps on going balls to the wall after that. But the fact that it just delivers on that definitely had an entertaining value to it. The whole look of the film, too, with its color palette. Eli Roth has said that his inspirations drew from like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse, or Pee Wee's Playhouse, it's called. The character's named Pee Wee Herman. That color palette and the way the Carnage candy is done, it's just a very entertaining ride. So if you get entertainment out of that schlock, if you get entertainment out of this practical effects, goopy practical effects when it comes to 80s slashers, you'll definitely be eating good with this one. And a majority of them too are very creative. There's things that you wouldn't even think of. We get a mouse trap, we get a garbage disposal, we get the light just went out, we get bricks, just a whole ton of variety of things that are just creative. I don't want to spoil it all, and that is the biggest positive of this movie. And I think that's what, if you're seeking this movie out and what this movie is going for, that's the movie. And there were a few times, more than a few actually, where the people around me, I saw them flinching. I saw them kind of like looking away. Just being in that environment too is a lot of fun. Another really cool thing about this movie that I enjoyed was the look of the quote unquote possession. The fact that it has, frosting or ice cream still on the face with sprinkles. I feel like that just adds a nice comedic, cartoony look to it. And it's just, like I said, fun. It's definitely a love letter to those 70s, 80s exploitation films. It's definitely a love letter to the cinema grindhouses, where they showed those unrated, X-rated movies back in the day that weren't very good. And this is exactly what this movie is trying to do, but with a little modern look to it. And I feel like that's a little bit of the charm that people are missing when they're seeing this movie. They're taking it a little too seriously, in my opinion. And we'll get to a little bit of other stuff down the road here. When you see the trailer for this, when the vibe that the movie's going for, and how Eli Roth is more known for those splattery films, I don't know where the disconnect happened, where you're expecting something along the lines like Weapons. I don't want to compare these movies because they're, vastly different, but similar in terms. But the fact that people are saying, it's Terrifier and Weapons combined, I could see those little things, but I also saw like reminiscent of The Stuff, for example, an fun 80s film about this frosting marshmallow type goop turning people into possessed zombie type things as well. It has a little bit more of a satire on consumerism in that movie, but there's a parallel to it. And it's just not trying to be something more deep. It's not trying to be this look into heavy themes. It's just a schlocky 80-minute Carnage filled ride. So that's where I kind of am with this movie, that it delivered on that. And I was entertained for a majority of this film, just going through all the madness that's ensuing. So back to the color palette. It was a cool contrast, and that's what Eli Roth was going for as well, was he wanted something that was colorful, playful, and has that innocent look to it, but have it clash and have it contrast with the mayhem, the carnage on screen. And that definitely happens. You definitely get it. Like the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie before the carnage ensues, I almost kind of forgot how much carnage we're going to get in this movie, because it just felt like a different movie in those first 15 to 20 minutes. That being said, it could have been cool if like the more chaotic the movie got, maybe the little bit of the color started to diminish. But again, I liked the contrast it had throughout the whole film. So there's that. And that's pretty much, the positives of this movie. Again, nothing to be taken too seriously. And we'll move into more of my mixed to negative. The first one is more of a mixed, and that's the overall acting of this film. Because there are moments where going in, I heard one of the major, there's a lot of things that people didn't like about this. And one of them was the acting was bad. When it comes to child actors, it's hit or miss. Some of them, have acted before. Some of them, this could be their very first movie. Some of them could even be relatives of the majority of people working on this set. I don't know the background, but there are some scenes where they're poorly acted, and there are some scenes where it's pretty good for what we get. That being said, it does go back and forth a lot, and there's a few times where I was like, why did they choose this take? There's one with the three survival kids, the ones that we kind of follow throughout the madness. Some of the scenes from the girl in that were just like, yeah, that was a pretty rough take, especially just combined with the dialogue too. But again, it's kind of going for that charm, so it's very tough to see the line there. But heads up, if you can't stand that kind of acting, you can't stand bad dialogue or bad acting, it's gonna drive you nuts. But then there are moments too with like Eli Roth, for example. He makes a cameo appearance in this, and some of the acting on his end, the way some lines are delivered, are questionable as well. Like even when they first bring up the ice cream man, how there's this ice cream man going around and it's creepy. He's like, how weird. And I think me doing that right now is probably better than the display we got. But just some questionable acting choices. So there's that. One that's more negative is the ice cream man. I think he was severely underused. Very cool look to him. It's just the ice cream man. So I guess cool might not be the right word for it, but they delivered on the ice cream man look. And I feel like if there was more to him, more to his character, he could have stood out a little bit more and added an iconic look to the horror genre, and maybe even started a little bit of a franchise. But the fact that he just uses ice cream to possess these kids to do his like quote unquote dirty work, it takes away some of his scariness. It takes away some of his menace and terror on screen that you could have gotten if he was a little bit more hands involved with the mayhem. Even if he was kind of acting it out in the background and the kids were doing it in the foreground, kind of like he's controlling them, that could have been a really cool concept to explore. But they don't go that far with the character. We get a little bit of mythos at the end and a little bit of questions answered. And even then it was kind of okay. It's reminiscent of a couple other horror movies. And like I mentioned, I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it, so I'm not going to dig into that area of the mythos or even mention the movies that it kind of reminded me of, because if you hear those movies, I'm sure your brain will connect to kind of the general idea of the origin of Ice Cream Man. So we'll leave all that there. But yeah, overall, severely underused as a character. And then another thing too is, yeah, this is an entertaining ride. It goes for that shock value. It goes hard when it comes to the carnage, and it's definitely hitting rapid pace, in the first 40, 50 minutes. But then it comes a point where you just kind of get sensitized to it, and you're kind of like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one that was trying to be shocking. And it does lose a little bit of its steam as the movie progresses. So there is a bit of a lull point, and then it has its climax, which could have been a little bit more climatic. The things they do in there, I think, would have had a better payoff if it was set up a little bit more. That being said, though, some people in my theater gasped, so it works. But I think personally, I would have liked a little bit more of a build up to it, because it kind of felt a little bit too, going for the shock value without proper setups. And they tried to set it up here and there as the movie progressed, but it really um, could have been done a little bit better, I believe. And then another negative to this too is just the story. I think the story at its heart has a lot of potential. If you follow me for a few videos now, even like in my past review for Hungry, that hippo movie, I mentioned how I just love when a idea is so ridiculous on paper, but when it's executed, it works and you walk away like that was awesome. And you get a little bit of that here, obviously, with the Carnage candy. But I think having the story of this ice cream guy go through and some of those ideas they threw out a couple of minutes ago, if they would have dove a little bit deeper into the story, they could have really made something really cool here and a little bit better received, I feel like. But again, it's a simple premise. It's not trying to be anything too serious, not trying to be anything too deep, and it's just entertaining you through schlock and Carnage candy. And again, it delivers on that. But I do feel like they could have done a little bit more with this story. And then we get to the AI part. So apparently there was some AI used in this movie, and that's very unfortunate to hear. Especially for a few reasons too. Again, when it comes to something with creation, movies, writing, art, music, um doing it AI is just, why are we doing that? It's getting rid of that human element. It's getting rid of someone coming up with this in their mind and putting it down on paper, putting it down on screen, putting it down in front of the camera. So it's very disappointing to hear that they did AI. And a thing I find interesting too is just there's a lot of confusion around it, because when the movie first was getting, press release, apparently Eli mentioned he drew out some of these cartoon characters and sent it to a company, and then they animated it, and then he kind of backtracked a little bit after he got a couple more questions, I feel like, or was pressed a little bit harder on it down the road. I'm not sure what entirely happened, but he came out saying there was a little bit of AI used. And I think the production company, the special effects company they hired, is an AI company, if I read that correctly or heard it correctly. And another thing too that's confusing is I feel like the scenes that people are saying are AI is a couple handful. It's either this flashback scene, it's either this cartoon um on screen that you get for about 5-10 seconds. I've seen someone mention like it's like one of the characters running, which I didn't catch that. But it seems like people can't put their thumbprints or their finger on what exactly was AI. And that being said, if I didn't know there was AI going into this movie, I don't think I would have caught on to it. Maybe some of it, looking back now, could have had that look to it, but I feel like it didn't really stand out as much as people are saying. With that being said, I'm not saying that I want AI in this movie. I don't feel like AI needed to be in this movie and should never be in a movie. Always keep it the human element. They could have done something else besides the cartoon scene. They could have done something else besides those flashback scenes if those were truly AI. So it's very unfortunate to get that. And another thing too, it kind of ruins reputation now of the horror section, because going forward now people are going to be questioning, well, this production company put out that movie Ice Cream Man that used AI. Does this new one have? So it kind of tarnishes that. And that whole production company is based on low budget films. It's based on getting unheard of horror directors out into theaters sharing their works of art. So it almost just damages that reputation now, where again, I believe Ice Cream Man is only their third movie. I feel like the only the two horror section movies right now are Jimmy and Stiggs and Dream Eater. Now we get Ice Cream Man, we get Stiletto in October, and it's a shame that there could be that little bit of distaste now in people's minds of the horror section, that they just produce, AI movies, because it only takes one to really ruin that reputation when it comes to this. So that's very much of a shame. And even with like Thanksgiving 2 now, people are probably be questioning that with the fact that Eli Roth used AI in this movie. So it definitely damaged a bit of everything, which is a shame, because moving on from the AI, just with like the controversial stuff too with Roth, and we saw this with numerous movies now, Scream 7 being one of them, The Odyssey with some of its casting choices, is that people are quick to boycott a movie for a decision or someone's background, like the director's background, when it's just not him making this movie. There's a whole community of people, hundreds, thousands, depending on like the movie, that worked on this movie, that put their blood, sweat, and tears into this film, that worked either with costumes, worked with the sets, worked with the writing, the story, the production, the lights, the microphones, booming, extras, just a bunch. It's a collaborative effort, and it's getting to a point where it's not even like fun discussing movies anymore that get this kind of controversy surrounding it. I'm going to a different rant now, a different topic, but let's bring it back a little bit. But when it comes to the AI, yeah, it's very disappointing that it did that, just because, like I mentioned, the horror section, at the heart and soul of it, it's always been about practical effects. I even feel like Eli Roth has been on record stating his love for practical effects. Jimmy and Stiggs has a ton of practical effects in it. I haven't seen Dream Eater yet, so I can't talk on that one. There's just something so special. There's something so charming. And there's something just that stands the test of time when it comes to practical effects. And it's just a shame that those are being put on the back burner now, especially for things they could have done practical in this movie. So, yes, the AI is unfortunate. It was used in this movie. Is it as obvious as it's being made out to be? In my opinion, no. When you read about it, it kind of sounds like the way people are wording it is that this whole 90-minute film was an AI generated film. And that's just not the case either. So there's definitely some baggage this movie brings with the AI part. But again, it's just a very small part of the film. And I hope they learn their lesson from this. I hope other filmmakers learn their lesson from this, is just like to leave the AI behind. Don't use it in movies. And that being said, too, it's just kind of a shame that this one's getting such an attack on it, because there's been other film like Late Night with the Devil apparently used a little bit of AI. I saw a thing the other day where Netflix has came out and mentioned that they had like 300 things on Netflix that had a little bit of AI. Stranger Things, I feel like the writers' room, didn't they have AI on one of the pictures or something? I don't really stay up to date with a lot of these things, but those are just some examples where it feels like it's came to a point too where it's a pick and choose battle. Like, oh, since this is a big name brand, a little bit of AI in there is fine. But since this is coming from a lower production company, it's automatic AI slop. So again, going into a different tangent, but yeah, at the end of the day, very unfortunate that this movie used AI. And if you're worried about that, 100% get it. But then when you look at the whole list of things that are being claimed to be AI, and if that list is true, you're just like, yeah, that's not great. Like, why would you even do that? Whose decision was this? And it's very interesting. I don't know if it was a deliberate decision. I don't know if they went with the company that apparently animated those effects and didn't know it was an AI based company, which again, it's kind of like, how don't you know? Why didn't you research the company you went with? Were they really that cheap to work with? And another thing is like, why didn't you just do it yourself and add a little bit more of that cheesy charm to it? Or there's plenty of college students, I bet, that are studying graphic arts, that are studying design, and they could have done something to put on their resume even. So it's just a lot of other things they could have went to and other things they could have done instead of it. So if that whole list is true, it's just like, yeah, that's pretty bad. That's in bad taste, and it definitely brings those scenes down. It definitely brings this movie down in a way. But on the other end too, it's there were a good dose of practical effects here, at least a lot of the carnage, that was all practical. There's a little bit of CGI blood, and that always just can go in the trash. It definitely didn't help in this movie at all. I think just sticking to the practicality would have been awesome. Very little CGI blood though, but overall, very, very solid that they went practical with that. So looking at that, why didn't they just keep that mind state for the littler things? Why did they do AI? It's just frustrating in that regard. So I'm with you there. Very unfortunate that this movie used AI, and if you're worried about that, 100% get it. But again, it's not as noticeable as some would say. But there's that. So overall, those are my thoughts on Ice Cream Man. A very tough movie to recommend because it's definitely not going to be for everyone. Even if you're a horror lover, it's not going to be for every horror lover out there. It definitely has that so bad it's good charm to it. It definitely has a ton of carnage, like mentioned. So if you like those kinds of movies, you have that soft spot for like movies of the 80s and 70s where they were just kind of bad but kind of good because they were bad, you'll definitely have fun with this movie. I was entertained throughout this film. I laughed at parts. It was better than expected, but again, it could have been just from the ton of negative reviews I saw on this going in with like very, very, very low expectations, but it definitely exceeded those very low expectations. And overall, it is unfortunate with the use of those AI in a few scenes. But yeah, it's not the best movie of 2026, but personally for me too, it's not the worst movie of 2026. I was entertained, I had fun, and if you like what you've heard so far, it's worth checking out in my opinion. It's just very unfortunate that they used AI in this, and I hope them and other filmmakers learn the lesson to just don't do that in movies, don't do that in art in general. So thank you for checking in today. I appreciate your view. I appreciate you checking into these videos. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel to see more movie talks, specifically in that horror realm. I cover horror, action, thriller, and comic book movies mostly. Those are the genres I love. So if you have that same love of genre, definitely consider subscribing. I appreciate it. So, and I'll have 2 videos on the screen as well if you want to see more of me at this very moment. But thanks again for watching, and until next time, keep watching those movies, because those movies won't watch themselves.